Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose, and you are watching Podcast with Pratim, presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center, or IRCC. In this episode, we will discuss Bangladesh again. I have with me lawyer and one-term former MP from Jatiyo Party, Mr. Shameem Haider Patwary. He is coming from a family of legal luminary. His father was chairman of the Department of Law, Dhaka University. Welcome to my show, sir, and thank you for kindly agreeing. That too from your village. I hope the audience will not mind if there is a slight, problem with the bandwidth. For starters, Jatiyo Party was founded by military ruler H.M. Ershad. If you have watched episode 104 of my podcast with Ghulam Mortoja, who is an insider of the Yunus administration, the ruling dispensation in Dhaka, willingly wants to keep Sheikh Hasina's Awami League out of the electoral politics. This is just a mirror of replica of what Awami League did with Jamaat-e-Islami. And they want to keep Jatiyo Party out as well. There is not much logic in this argument. They say that Jatiyo, whosoever participated in the elections conducted by Hasina are out. But by that agreement, BNP should also been out for participating in 2018 election. However, they didn't dare to do that. I invited Mr. Patwary to this podcast for a simple reason. After the fall of Hasina, the political space in Bangladesh has become highly one-sided. Open Bangladeshi newspapers and TV channels, and there is very little trace of objective assessment, even in as critical areas as India-Bangladesh relations. Mr. Patwary has been an exception to this rule. As guest to some of the TV talk shows that I could watch, he has been making very objective assessment of the situation ever since the Yunus administration has come to power. Sir, we have seen how students were used to force Supreme Court judges to resign, and some senior journalists recently, two specifically, have started speaking out against media censorship. India bashing has always been favorite pastime. It's always there, a pastime in Bangladesh. Now, every other person is tagged as a fascist or a RAW agent. It's both hilarious and scary as well. My first question is, how do you speak out for stable India-Bangladesh relations, and why? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me in this show, which is my first Indian TV show, practically, or online show. Basically, I'm a politician. I was a member of parliament twice. I contested the vote 4 times. I'm comparatively younger, and I was very vocal during the protest time in favor of the students. When the police killed a student, I raised my voice frequently in TV talk shows and everywhere. Now, what I've seen after this movement, which is a successful movement, dramatic replacement of government, and what we have noticed that apparently the people or the students who protested for a fair election, they protested for democracy, they protested for inclusion, they protested for inclusive economic development. They protested for their rights. But what we have noticed practically, there is a attempt to shifting the course of history from 1947 to till date. There is an attempt to change our national anthem. There is now an ongoing attempt to change our constitution altogether. There is an attempt to change even the father of the nation sometimes. So that created a sense of insensitivity among a number of politicians. But because all the Awami Leagues are now out of the scene, they're not visible. So I feel compelled to say something about it. And then the things happened. Chinmoy Dasgupta was arrested, and followed by a death of a lawyer, a countrywide protest by Hindu priests, and followed by a counter protest by Islamists, and the government role, I would say, the government role is a little bit provocative, and a number of insiders from the government and a number of student protesters, they're shouted at India, and they're making some noise, they're making some comment which is not in diplomatic terms. And I've also seen Indian media is creating a hype that Hindus in Bangladesh are extremely in vulnerable condition, and India must do something for the Hindus in Bangladesh. This is our completely internal affairs. So there is no one to divide the line. There is no one to blow the whistle. There's no one who can play the whistleblower's role, that these are the diplomatic norms, these are the parameters of political dialogue, these are the parameters of students' activities. And so I speak freely, frankly, and a good number of people like it, honestly speaking. And then Mr. Foreign Secretary visited Bangladesh, and then he had a one-to-one meeting with Professor Yunus and many other stakeholders. And since then, the hostility is little bit calm, but still the visa for Bangladeshis to enter India is now still completely prohibited or completely banned, except few medical visa. And the tension is there, and there is no one to ease it down. Now, I think we both are handling the matter rather emotionally and less professionally. Of course, change happen in this country, and as Indian Foreign Minister says, sometimes change happen dramatically, but a change happened, no doubt about it. A government replaced, and whatever the government at the moment, the India must have a good terms with that relation. Bangladesh must have a good term with India. We can change many things, but we cannot change our neighbor. That's the harsh reality. And in 1971, India played a very, very crucial role. They give us shelter. Over 10 million refugees were there. We form our rebel government inside India, and there was a war. This is a significant factor. In 1947, India-Pakistan was divided on table, backed by or preceded by or followed by riot and refugee crisis, but not by war. But in 1971, we Bengalis own our independence in a bloodshed, in a war. We fight against the draconian army, Pakistan army. We defeated them, and 93,000 soldiers just surrendered, putting their tail between legs. So this is the Bengali character. So if someone tried to shift this character into a rather in a different dimension, maybe Islamist, maybe communist, maybe in a Khilafat or something like that, it is our noble duty to remind this nation our own previous glorious history. And of course, India is not our enemy. India is our friend in 1971. Yes, there is a perception, there is a public perception since 2014 that one-side election, that India was aided Awami League, helped Awami League in crystallize this one-side election in 2014. That is the public perception. And it continued in 2018, and it continues in 2024. However, there was a time when BNP was in power, and India had a good term with Bangladesh then as well. There was a time when Ziaur Rahman was in power. India had a good diplomatic ties with Bangladesh also at that time. And there was a time when Ershad, our party leader, was in power for 8 years. India has a good term with Ershad as well. So, as I told, most people are looking at it emotionally, not professionally. Now, the root cause of our present problem for Awami League, for Jatiyo Party, for Bangladesh, for India, Bangladesh, for Hindu Muslims is the one-sided election of 2014, where 154 MPs elected uncontested before election. You need 151 to form a government, but 154 elected before election. Now, if you relate 2014 to present situation, if there is election without Awami League, without Jatiyo Party, that will be a replica of 2014. And whoever is thinking it's plausible, it's possible, it might be possible, but not sustainable at all. So they should learn from the Army League. What the Army League have done by a one-sided election, the same fate will be awaiting if someone go for this one-sided election. And I personally believe BNP is not willing for a one-sided election. They are more than willing to have a contested election. They have huge popularity. They are tortured. They are marginalized. People is waiting to vote them. They have a good future even in a very competitive election. There is no reason a party which is um, which is capable to win in a competitive election, they will facilitate a one-sided election. But in this protest, we have seen the rise of some Islamic parties, the rise of some Islamic bodies. Mm, they have huge influence in cadre level. They have huge influence in any protest. They can die, they can give blood, but when it comes to vote, they don't have a huge chunk of vote. So any one-sided election will automatically benefit these Islamist or ultra-Islamist group. So I think they are more adamant to have an election without Awami League or Jatiyo Party. Thank you.
Right. You have precisely hit the nail. The problem is from the Indian perspective. You're right that the government, Indian government, rightly or wrongly supported. I'm not talking about the perception that India engineered. India did support stand by Hasina. The primary reason, I mean, leave aside many other things, one of the major reasons had been the bad experience of 2001 to 2006. And the 10 truck arms haul case, the shelters given to militants, so cross border, basically export of terrorism, that is where it counts to. So I'll come to that. But one major problem, I'm sure, I mean, we all expected Bangladesh to go through some turbulence, after Dr. Yunus took over. It happens when such kind of a thing happens, some uprising, it happened in Sri Lanka. But there is a difference between what happened in Sri Lanka and what is happening in Bangladesh. It was okay to pull down a government which was not fair. Now, this administration assumed power, promising to restore democratic and constitutional values. The question is, what type of democracy and which constitution? We all know that Dr. Yunus took oath on the constitution, and then the next day he wanted to rewrite that. I mean, at least with that intention, a committee was submitted, and now things are going too far with the proclamation of Proclamation of Revolution, which is coming, we will discuss. Now, let us see what happened in last 4 months. I mean, I'm giving my perspective of things, sir. There have been number of cases against the Awami League, against Hasina, cases against journalists for murder. Each of these cases have up to seven, I am told 500 to 700 accused, and some journalist name, whosoever, every other person's name had been included into that. Mr. Shahriar Kabir, who has been an anti-Islamist activist, he is sent to jail. Now look at the religious side, minority side. The Hindu, Buddhist, Christian Unity Council top leaders are either facing murder charges or are on the run. They are curtly told to get off. The Sanatan Jot leader, as you said, Chinmay Prabhu, is sent to jail. And first arrested for some fictitious sedition charge, and then some murder charges are added to it. So these are now, as we see, that two of the three top political parties are denied space. At the same time, this government has been releasing deadly terrorists out of jail, cases on the ruling dispensation, and its political beneficiaries are getting dropped in dozens. Jamaat-e-Islami is enjoying a free run. The history of liberation is under attack. Bangladesh has gone back to the days between 95 and 1990, sometimes when it was a crime to take the name of Mujibur Rahman and etc. So the question is very simple. Uh, this government, this administration has a politics, but there is no banner to it. Now, how to do business with it? What do they want? I mean, I also have a simple question. Do you think Bangladeshis are enjoy more freedom now than in the past? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, after the protest, definitely there is a mob lead violence in this country. There is a mob violence, mob justice inside court, outside court, inside the street. Of course, the of speech is now shrinking, no doubt about it. But because of the long power enjoyed by the Army League, people also dislike, a good number of people dislike Army League. There was practically a war in the street of Bangladesh. And there is a win and defeat party. They are the winning party, Army League, and some other allied are the defeating party. And as I told, Army League is not visible at all. If one party is not visible, there is no balancing factor to protect your freedom of speech or freedom of organization. So it is completely one-sided, definitely. Now the next question is about the government. It's a sui juris government. You will not find this type of government in the history of Bangladesh any time, not in any constitution, not on any proclamation. It's not an army-backed government. It's not a 90 days interim or caretaker government as it used to be. It's a completely student-led, protesters-led government. There are some mature people in the governance, of course. Some advisors are very key economists of this country, but most of them are from NGO and most of them are from university teachers, university faculties. They're very highly educated, highly sophisticated persons, and they have contributed in the protest. But when it comes to handling the bureaucracy, handling the police, handling the army, handling the election, handling the judiciary, I would say most of them don't have real practical political knowledge. And they don't have any political party as well. So what is their power base? What is their strength base? So their strength base is this mob. And I personally think they use this mob to achieve their parochial interests. If they want to remove the judges, if they want to remove the secretaries, if they want to ban Jatiyo Party, if they want to avoid Jatiyo Party in the dialogue, I think this mob has been used. Now the problem is, whenever a government comes, it has a definite goal. If army person come in earlier times, they had a definite goal that they will form a party, they will make the party popular, they will go for election, they will form government, they will try to stay in the power. If it's a three months government, they know it's a 3 months time, they have to finish the election and go back. During the 111, they knew they have to remove the corruption issues, they have to enact lots of laws, they have to make organizational reform, and they have to go back. But this government initially just says they need 10 years, then they say they need 5 years. Then Dr. Yunus says, if you want election, I will hold election tomorrow. I don't want, this is not my job. There is a fickleness within the government as to their definitive goal. And they fail to control inflation completely. They fail to maintain law and order completely. They fail to maintain Dhaka traffic completely. They fail to protect people's life, property completely. There is a huge pressure on the economy. There is a huge pressure on the job cut. And altogether, there is a loss of failure in this government. So when there is the India card, it's a very easy card to divert the attention of the mass people and shift it towards a hostility rather than constructive criticism. So that's a key card that the government had, and there is a so-called alliance or unity they have formed. They should form unity amongst diversity. But what the government has done, they form unity within their unity bloc. They did not invite the other bloc. They did not invite Awami League for obvious reason. They did not invite Jatiyo Party. They did not invite the other left wings. Some left wings are there, but some are left over. So it's not technically speaking a unity. It does not reflect 100% of Bangladesh. It does not reflect all parties. Among the 47 or 57 registered parties, they invited only 17. And out of these 17, at least 15 does not carry altogether more votes than Jatiyo Party. It's not inclusive. It's not a unity in technical term, but it reflects some strength of the government. As I told, this government do not have any effective political party backing. This government do not have the army backing as it was in 2006 to 2008. So this anti-India unity card they are using basically as their justification to continue and continue longer. And I deeply regretfully notice that there is a huge provocation from both sides, India and Bangladesh, to raise a war. India attacked our Tripura High Commission. Bangladesh students and others say so many bad things about India, about Seven Sisters. So there is a provocation from both sides. Um, can Bangladesh afford a war? Or can India afford a war with Bangladesh? Bangladesh is a small country with 3,000, 4,000 kilometer border. There are so many other ways to resolve this problem. Why we're talking about war and everything. And I also suspect that it will be Bangladesh will be buffer state for international politics. It could be India-Pakistan war, but the battlefield will be Bangladesh. It could be India and other country war, but the battlefield will be Bangladesh. And since there is a terrorism issues in many countries, we also apprehend Bangladesh could be a hub of new terrorism, and that is also our concern. You say about releasing prisoners or terrorists from prison. Yes, there is some incidence of releasing the prisoners, true. But on the other hand, we have hundreds and thousands medical patients who need visa, who go to South India or other part of India for treatment. A number of students who are going to lose their eyes because of recent protest bullet, they're not getting visa. So India has to look this issue with a rather human approach, a more friendly approach. Every denial from India is being labeled in this country as a denial because of Awami League. Every denial from India is is termed because Awami League is not in power. India is denying this visa and other things. So definitely, it's not the real scenario. We need a real diplomatic terms. We need a real professional handling of this issue. We're more than happy to address the Indian concern if there is a terrorism issue, if there is a secession issue from Bangladesh to India. Bangladesh, we don't want to use our land for any other country's internal issue. Like the 10 truck arms, you remember that during the BNP's period, there is a huge discovery or recovery of arms in the Chittagong port. Obviously, that's a fatal blow in India-Bangladesh relation. Obviously, that's a turning point in India-Bangladesh relation. And obviously, we don't want to repeat that. That was completely unnecessary. That was completely violative to international law. That is completely dangerous for Bangladesh as well. We're more concerned about our Rohingya issue. We're more concerned about Myanmar war. We are more concerned about our poverty elevation. We are more concerned about our skill development and political integration. We have no plan to disturb India altogether, at least from the future, at all.
Thanks, sir. Just one clarification. The Bangladesh mission office in Agartala was breached by some protesters, and India immediately issued regret, and strong action has been taken over that area to ensure. So that was a really unacceptable
True.
situation.
Mm.
Sir, you are now about this turn. Say, just yesterday evening, I believe there was a sudden announcement about this Proclamation of Revolution. That meeting will take place on July 31. And I have just seen the note on that. And there are a couple of things. Number one, the government meanwhile said, the press secretary said that it is a private initiative, which is true. It is a private initiative, but the point is that whether the government has anything to gain out of it, and that it first the same students who were used to force resignations, they are involved. Number two, there are two references I would like to know from you. My references on 9/11 settlement and army rule. So I believe this thing will be used as a referendum to kind of to showcase abroad that people are against, in case such a situation arises, so that to prevent any kind of intervention by the army. The other things are much more critical. This is a short term or limited term thing. Okay, that is understandable. But the other things are very interesting, where it is trying to change the history of the country practically. It is absolutely. And my personal impression is that if this thing, first of all, it has a lot of similarity with what one of the ideologues who is not in government has been saying in through his interviews, Mr. Farhad Majar. And secondly, Jamaat is the huge gainer, because they had been against this liberation. So this is practically to erase that history. And most critically, this is going to impact BNP. If Jamaat and other forces gain, then that is going to come at BNP's cost. So then there is a national cost. So how do you look at it, sir?
This is really unfortunate, and this is absolutely unnecessary, absolutely disproportionate, absolutely unjust, and absolutely defamatory and derogatory for the dignity of freedom fighters and freedom fighters. BNP have lots of freedom fighters as their leaders. In fact, at some point of time, more freedom fighters used to do BNP rather Army League. We had a declaration of independence that was declared in 17th April 1971. Then we had a shift of power in 1975. Then we have a shift of power in 1990 after General Ershad. There was inclusive election. We have also some sorts of shift of power in 2006 and then 2024. The magnitude may be a little bit severe this time, of torture, of enforced disappearance, and of murder. But this is nothing but this is a shift of government, definitely, from a one-sided election to an inclusive election. In the meantime, there is a lots of people give their life for democracy, mostly for democracy. So we're not gaining any new territory. We're not departing from any other country. We remain the same country. We didn't fight against any other foreign alien soldiers. There is a protest within Bangladesh, amongst Bangladeshis, where both parties are Bangladesh citizens. So the necessity of a new declaration of independence or declaration of revolution is not justified at all, even legally. So this declaration also it come after finishing the so-called protest, the protest. So I think what is needed basically at the moment, I think the students should discuss these things with senior politicians, with all parties. There should be more dialogue amongst the party, and these revolutionary ideas, this adventurism must be stopped. It's going to divide our nation. It's going to divide our country. It's going to divide political parties. And Bangladesh could be a long-term conflict zone. That's my apprehend. Bangladesh could be a long-term disputed area. There could be a civil war in this country if you divide the country, if you contrast 71 and 24. If you make 24 face to face with 71, this is totally unconnected. Even the protesters, the student leaders who lead this 2024 movement, they started the movement with 1971 philosophy, with 1971 spirit. Now some of them are trying to divert the spirit by a new declaration. They started the declaration from 1947. I don't know why they do it. And then they make reference to 111, that is a military government, military-backed government in 111. I don't know why they have done it. And these all things are really, is not a nationhood. Nation is not like that. Nationhood means where you can encompass huge or almost all nations. You are making a party politics. So this is so narrow views and so partisan views, so one-sided, and it is not acceptable. I've been to the national monument on 16 December on our Independence or Victory Day. I have seen millions gather voluntarily to show respect for the 1971 martyrs, and still we have lots of freedom fighters. They are national icons. So I don't think this country will ever disgrace 1971. And in the history of Bengalis in 2000 years, this is the most glorious war we have ever had. So how can we replicate that? We can't replicate that. And not even in terms of there was a rape happened during that time. There was a 3 million people died in 1971. That was a huge uprise of the common people, and there is a huge economic disparity backed by 24 years disparity between East Pakistan and West Pakistan, and still Pakistan didn't apologize for what they have done in 1971. Still, there is a claim of reparation from Pakistan to East Pakistan. So there are so many unresolved issues between in Pakistan and Bangladesh. But I think a quarter of people is trying to twist and divert the history unnecessary, and that also creating a problem because these students they got huge popular support from every corner, but now they are becoming compartmentalized, they are tribalized, they are looking into narrow political view, and they're putting themselves into the narrow political space. That is also unfortunate.
Very, very interesting. You said, we all know that Bangladesh had gone through this 1971 trauma. I mean, politically, a lot of things happened inside. There was a division in the country. Now you are dividing or sharpening that divide to unlimited proportion. And yes, I do share your views that the situation can turn very deadly. And if I go by vote typically electoral politics, then I have to say that there is less space for anti-liberation forces. We are getting back to the same problem. I fully appreciate your point about the medical visa and visa issues. I'm really sympathetic. I don't know. I mean, just telling it here, back in 2015 or 16, it should be. So I did a story about there was a racket on visa in Bangladesh that time. So I was in Bangladesh and I did a story. It was taken note of by the authorities, and those issues were settled out. The process has been digitalized, etc., etc. A lot of things happened. You may remember the token problems. I really want the things to normalize. But the question, we are coming back to the same issue, that how do we trust what you need to have a government to government trust. So visa or other things cannot really work in isolation without the government. Now, that is where we are coming to. There is a proclamation for revolution. There is a which is basically, if we just put things into perspective, the historical ties with India are being targeted. And at the same time, you spoke about the 10-truck arms all case, and there had been recently the case has been dropped altogether. Now, security has been the cornerstone of India-Bangladesh relations. It became a cornerstone during the 2001 and 2006 period. Thankfully, we then entered into economic engagements, and we all thought that this should take precedence. But then it did not. And what is happening is very, very, very concerning. So Can you tell me that how does Bangladesh gain out of it? I mean, it is beyond my logic, my understanding, so I'm just asking you.
Yeah, true. Of course, Bangladesh is not gaining anything out of it, but obviously, because of the long, prolonged regime of Army League for last 16 years, it has created a group of tortured people, a group of victim people who really want to get rid of Army League at any cost. And they mingled Army League with Indian friendship and everything, all these national issues, they're looking into together. Now, if there is a hostility between Bangladesh and India, obviously there is a risk of famine in Bangladesh. There is a risk of food security in Bangladesh if India and Bangladesh don't have good ties. The medical treatment problem, I have already mentioned because we have no other bordering country. Most Bangladeshi people can't afford to go Thailand or Malaysia or Singapore for treatment. India is a very cheap and quality treatment option. And also the historical ties we have in 1971. How can you forget that, to be honest? Now, as I told, a number of people is looking this matter emotionally, but I think India must not or should not look at it emotionally. Whatever the government, India should open the dialogue, maybe one to one, maybe Yunus to Modi, Modi to Yunus, and engagement is much needed. To resolve a problem, if you isolate the problem, if we just block Bangladesh and think the problem is fully solved, I think it's vice versa dangerous. Obviously, because of Bangladesh hostility, India will not face famine or any security big security issue. But Bangladesh is a country of 180 million, and if there is unrest inside Bangladesh, if there is a civil war, if there is a protest, if there is a famine, if there is a catastrophe, if there is a climate disaster, obviously there will be some spillover effect, and that will affect the regional harmony. So India, as regional superpower, should not allow it. India should continue dialogue, should start dialogue with Yunus, and should get engaged in friendship because they are our neighbor, we are their neighbor. India, if don't engage in dialogue with Bangladesh, Bangladesh could be another conflict zone, could be another Kashmir. So there is security concern from there, obviously. And historically, this Bangladesh, it takes 3 days for Bangladesh to decide to join Pakistan in 1947 or in 1945. So there is a huge fickleness of the mindset in this region, people. So I think as a good neighbor, as a good friendly neighbor, as our long trusted friend, and as our big helping hand in 1971, um, any government come to Bangladesh, India should have the dialogues. Um, Obviously, in that case, it has to be it has to be cleared whether Dr. Yunus is giving free opinion or a mob lead opinion. Obviously, he's a Nobel laureate, he's an international figure. He knows the international politics better than most of us, obviously. But if he is too influenced by the students, that will affect his diplomatic negotiation, and that's going to affect India-Bangladesh relation. If he is too influenced by communists, that will affect India-Bangladesh negotiation. If he is too affect or too influenced by Islamists, that will affect India-Bangladesh relation. He should be influenced by Bangladesh interest only. In Bangladesh, if you say about India-Bangladesh friendship, some people will blame you as Indian agent or raw agent, blatantly. In Army League period, if you talked about any fair election or anything, some Army League people will call you as Pakistan agent. So in this Bangladesh, we need agent for Bangladesh. We need Bengal agent. And Dr. Yunus, so long as he is in power, he must act as Bangladeshi agent. history shows in this country, if you come to power and can't handle it properly, there is a risk. We have the example of Aung San Suu Kyi. So he's on hot spot, and a discussion with India could be relief for him as well, for Bangladesh or for him, for both, and for India as well. So where there is a huge beneficial options available for both of us, why we're taking an option that is equally dangerous for us? I don't want to go for the parameter. Obviously, the parameter of loss will be higher in Bangladesh, but no doubt about it. But Bangladesh is surrounded by India, so any damage, anything will have multifarious impact. So if there is a war happening in this country, 10 million people will be out of below poverty line, and these 10 million people will start maybe engaged in many crimes, maybe trafficking, maybe drug trafficking, maybe terrorism. So that's very huge issue. So India as a regional superpower, we don't have any SARC as well. We don't have any bodies, in fact, any multilateral body to resolve these issues. That's one problem. In that sense, I think we should have dialogue with India. India should have dialogue with Bangladesh. And as a sovereign country, Bangladesh can choose our own government. As a sovereign country, Bangladesh can choose her own foreign policy. But if India closed their door, obviously our government will look for other doors, even unsuccessfully or successfully. Maybe those doors are not equally useful like India, but any government will try to have a backup support. So why we'll go for that backup support? So I think as a closest neighbor, India should open their door. Of course, without sacrificing India's security concern. Yeah, thank you.
I do agree. I do agree. In fact, during the foreign secretary visit, our foreign secretary said that the visas will be increased. I wish medical visas should be made available at least, and some kind of a little limited quantities of tourist visa immediately. Yes, the problem, there is a problem. You know that even inside the visa center there were some unacceptable situations. So a lot of things are happening anyway. Thank you for giving us giving me time, and thank you for agreeing to join from your native place. I hope visitors, viewers can watch. There is a roof which is which is a I think
Yes,
right, created out of
it's made
straw
of
and bamboo.
it's bamboo. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. See you again.